Hey, what's up guys, it's Matt with the Movement System. We're here to show you guys 5 levels of plyometric exercises from basic to advanced. We're gonna talk about what you need to master at each level before moving up to the next level of intensity here. Carmen's here to demo our exercises, so let's go ahead and get started. So to start off, we wanna master drop freezes and snap downs. These are 2 really important fundamental plyometric exercises that help us learn to absorb forces. So let's go ahead and start by showing you a snap down. And this is a great exercise, especially for youth athletes. So with the snap down, we're gonna put our arms all the way overhead, snap down quickly, and absorb force. So what we're coaching with athletes doing these snap downs is throwing the arms down harder, and then at the top position, we can even progress this by going up onto the ball of the foot. So just like you are up as high as you can, and then snap down quick, absorb that force. What we're teaching athletes with this exercise is how to absorb forces and generate really high internal muscle forces, which is a really important part of plyometric movements. We want to do this, master that eccentric phase, that absorption phase, before we move on to more intense plyometrics. A second exercise that we can see with this, a little bit of a progression from the snap down, is actually a drop freeze. So the way we're going to do this is standing up on a box, stepping off, following the distance of the box, and then the same movement, we're going to absorb force and catch the landing. So what we want to coach athletes with this movement is to land soft, absorb the force, and try to be quiet with that landing. So we want to master our snap downs and drop freezes. That's level 1. Then we can move to level 2. Level 2 is going to be our box jump exercise. The reason this is level 2 is because it's going to help us reduce the contact forces on the landing. So it's gonna be a softer landing. We can do more reps of these early without having to worry about absorbing too much force. So what we're gonna do for the box jump is throw the arms down hard. We wanna see the arms break the line of the body. So we're gonna actually have Carmen pause at the bottom of this rep as if he's throwing his arms down hard, throwing his hips back. We wanna see those arms go beyond the body there, beyond the back of the hips, to really load up the posterior chain and then explode through and up for our box jump. So again, box jumps, level 2 movement here. All right, level 3 is going to be a vertical jump. This is a little bit more intense than the box jump because we actually have to absorb the landing here. So with this level 3 vertical jump, we're gonna start with throwing our arms back really hard, loading up that posterior chain, and then we're just gonna jump and then catch ourselves on the landing. So just like you're reaching really high, as high as you can above you, we're gonna be doing these vertical jumps. Some things we wanna look out for is full extension at the ankle, knee, and hip. So if our athletes are shortchanging that hip extension, we wanna coach them to actually fully extend the hips, knees, and ankles at that takeoff position. All right, level 4, we're gonna move on to depth jumps. Again, we wanna master the elements of the vertical jump and the drop freezes before we start loading athletes with depth jumps. A good starting point with depth jumps is around 12 to 18 inches for the box height, so that way the athlete can only fall that distance and control that force before we start putting them up on higher and higher boxes. As we raise the box, the athlete's gonna have more momentum coming into the ground, so we wanna make sure their technique is good with 12 and 18 inches before we progress to that 24-inch box. So with a depth jump, what we wanna see is the athlete steps off and then falls the distance of the box. From there, they're going to very quickly push into the ground and jump up onto another box. This is the first level for the depth jumps, is to jump from one box up onto the next box, because then again, we're gonna be taking out the impact of landing by adding that second box. For level 5, we're gonna get into depth jumps with an additional component to it. So there's a lot of different variations of this. You can do a depth jump into a lateral jump. You can do a depth jump with a single leg landing. When we're doing single leg landing, we wanna make sure that our mechanics are staying really sound. So when we're progressing to these single leg moves, like a single leg landing for a depth jump, we wanna step off the box, land with one leg, and then hold in that bottom position for a second. What we wanna see here is that the athlete's not dropping a hip, that their knee is not coming into the midline, and that they can actually find a really strong single leg position. For Carmen, I probably wouldn't progress him beyond this exercise. We need some work about at this level to be able to actually absorb those forces, land in a solid single leg position. So we would probably be working on this for a few weeks before we get into more advanced single leg variations for him. So for your athletes that are struggling, you can always go to a smaller box here and then coach that landing like you wanna see it. Single leg land, hold that bottom position. If we can develop good stability in this bottom position by adding that 1 or 2 second hold at the bottom, we can start to develop really good co-contractions between muscle groups to, again, maintain stability and control in that bottom position. So with these single leg exercises, we wanna be progressive with them. We don't wanna just go to the hardest variation first. If you do master that single leg depth jump isometric hold at the bottom, your form looks good, and you want to progress beyond that, you can start taking that single leg position into a lateral jump. You could take that single leg position into a vertical jump, again maintaining the technique that we wanted to see from that single leg hold position. You could also progress into something like a single leg tuck jump, but we do want to make sure that we're still, again, able to maintain that controlled landing position. Once you can control those landings, you can start to sequence them one after another to do 4 or 5 reps in a row. So to wrap up, make sure that we're not skipping steps, especially for youth athletes. If we're throwing youth athletes into these advanced plyometrics, their mechanics aren't going to be good, and they're not going to be getting the adaptations that we want to see early on. Doing things like drop freezes can teach them to generate high internal muscle forces, which is a great stimulus for bone mineral density, really important in youth athletes. So again, make sure that we are progressive with the way we're programming. Hopefully this has been really helpful for you guys. Smash that like button, subscribe so you don't miss any future videos, and we'll catch you in the next one. Thanks.